I'm joined today by Carole Cobb, and this being the week in which International Women's Day falls, I'm here to talk about a little bit about gender parity, gender equity, gender friendliness of the biotech industry, an industry that, Carole, you entered in your late 20s?
Yeah, well, actually, Thomas, thank you. I actually jumped into biotech actually in my early 20s. I came right out of college. I joined a company, Eastman Kodak at the time, which most people wouldn't normally connect to biotech. But at that time, they were making many different enzymes to put in a blood analyzer.
And sorry, for our younger viewers, Kodak used to be one of the most famous companies in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
But no longer exists today.
Yeah, but they made film, old-fashioned film, and they really had a lot of thin film technology. So they used that technology to actually layer in enzymes to actually have a really neat little chip-based blood analyzer. I joined that company to do process development on the enzyme part. And then we moved into many other things, including fermentation of small molecules, vitamins, amino acids, and whatnot. But the gender parity thing, I think, from my perspective, as I look back, I was really quite fortunate. Biotech back in the early 80s, although it had been around for a while, was still in its infancy. The team that I was privileged to work with back in the early days was like myself, all out of college. Probably an even split of men and women in the team, all of us with a technical background. And I think we looked less, were we a female or a male, but we were just so passionate and excited about the technology. It kind of overraw any of the other issues that you do see cropping up and have cropped up in other industries. And I think that's, again, because biotech was just, our focus was biotech. And we were so excited about the technology and what you could do with it, the opportunity that was there.
Is that something to do with the beginning of the industry, do you think?
I think so. Again, you get something new and there was so much potential. I mean, go back, what was it? Go back to the early 80s, all the tools that we now know, CRISPR, all those things, none of that was back there at that point. And everything was just, can you invent? Can you discover? Oh my gosh, look what you can do. So I think the excitement of the potential of the technology again transcended some of those issues that really have cropped in since then.
So when do you feel? I mean, your career progressed a tremendous amount, and you went on to run multi-hundred million dollar budgets for global manufacturing plants around the world. As your career progressed through that, you felt that? Did you feel the gender issues becoming more prevalent?
Yeah, certainly not only I think as I progressed my career, but frankly, when you walked out of the research lab, again, you started to see elements of, elements of that gender issue. And certainly my next step after I did process development, I jumped over to the manufacturing side. So now I'm talking steel, building plants, running with people, working with partners that have enormous plant-based infrastructures. And there for sure, I was somewhat out of place. The majority of the meetings I'd walk into, I was, the only female. Sometimes I was lucky to be, the second female in the room. But then you definitely, I was put on a lower platform than most of the other individuals in the room. So, yeah.
So, and that's when the manufacturing element came into the biotech.
Yeah, and again, being in biotech, as I mentioned, we worked on a lot of small molecules. And at this point, I was with a different company, but amino acids, things like that. I mean, I was over in Germany with one of the largest chemical manufacturers, and I get off to start the meeting. And I think they didn't realize I was a female. I don't know why. Maybe they just never looked at my full name. But they were shocked to see that when I showed up talking about a process. At this point, it was to make indigo from an E. coli off a tryptophan pathway. And for me to come over and sit down and tell these individuals, a couple of male gentlemen at the time, this is the way you want to do it. And I mean, at the end, it worked out, but it was difficult at first. And there's many examples that I have, especially in the early days when I jumped over into the manufacturing side. So.
How did they express their surprise in that particular situation or in other situations? Are there memorable examples of of where they're like, so where?
Yeah, I got called honey. Not in Europe, they call you different things, but some of my again, we another example. I did a lot of. I'm not sure if I should name a company, but they were a big grain. I think the second largest grain wet miller here in the U.S. And we did amino acid work for them, big fermentation amino acid work for them. Again, in the later part of the 80s, but I'd go there to have meetings, and I was called honey, and those kinds of things, right? And it's only really when you get up and you start to talk about really the science or the details that people start to listen. But often you'd get questions, basic questions that again they were just asking to make a point. So I saw a lot of that. Especially in that period, like the 80s and the 90s, once I left the research lab and got more into a manufacturing environment. So,
and has that evolved in the manufacturing environment, or does that remain the same? Has the reaction in the room shifted?
I think so. For the most part, again, if I'll stick with biotech, I think at least as I developed my career, at one point I did have multiple plants reporting to me, and I don't know, maybe 30%. I had 4 plant managers that were females. Again, I think in our industry, people do look at the technology a little bit more than they do the individual presenting it. And I think that, there's been outstanding scientists and contributions from females along with males that at least on the manufacturing side, for biotech, I do see respect.
So you were, from past conversations, the first female manufacturing plant manager in your company?
Yes, I was. Yeah. So that was fun. But again, the company I worked with, they were very supportive of, I think, the progression of females in the company. And but I was definitely the first. And I was in the middle of the Midwest. Again, not really, you don't see a lot of, I think, female people, at least back then. Again, now this is the early 90s, I think, running plants. And it took a while, I think, for I think there was 100 people working at the plant at the time, maybe a little less. It took a while for, I think, the team to kind of get used to having me up in the seat there. But at the end, it worked out great. So.
And do you remember your first day going in, or what the initial feeling as it began? I mean, yeah, no matter what, entering a job like that, you're nervous.
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous, but again, at that point, I knew some of the individuals, so it wasn't that bad. Yeah, and again, you need to demonstrate yourself a little bit, and my approach has always been to jump right in. The first many months I was out on the floor working with the teams out there. So very quickly, I think when people see your abilities and your desire and your passion about what you do, it's what you do, less what you say, that it really makes a difference. And it's always made a difference for me. Less about what I say, more about what people see you do. And I've always kind of used that, just demonstrate your abilities, and it's paid off, at least for me.
So what counsel would you give to a woman at the beginning of her career right now in the biotech industry, which when you look around at biotechs, do a search on the web, they do seem very male dominated?
Yeah, I think again, biotech is still about the science. I mean, look at what's happening today, and look at our company. I mean, the female scientists that we have are outstanding. So again, for me, I was never much of a loud voice. I just always focused on what I thought I needed to do to accomplish what I was asked to do. And, I think to really focus on the science and excel in the role that you've got, you get noticed. I mean, I can tell you, you get noticed. I think, are there problems? Yes, there are. But again, to kind of focus and not be shy about when you see something that you don't feel is fair, don't be shy about it. You can't be passive, but I think on the other hand, to focus and demonstrate results always gets you ahead. I mean, great people are, you find great people, and there's always a great role for them. So.
Is there a role for mentoring? Did being mentored help you in your career? Is that something you
Yeah,
recommend?
it did. One of the things that I at least for me, I did have a wonderful mentor. Actually, he came from Cuba, and again, I think fought his way to the position that he had, and I think just again recognized, my abilities, and it's one thing. I think you have to come with it with the basic skills, but often what you lack, at least what I see, you lack kind of the confidence, to continue to see sometimes the way you're treated, and then you just want to give up. But to have somebody there to just mentor you through that and to help you, keep your confidence is really important. So, we can accomplish anything. And again, sometimes we're put down or you're the lone voice in the room. But again, to have the confidence to continue is something that you really need.
And moving away from the gender elements of this, a lot of your career you've spent at some of the largest organizations in the world in this industry. Now you're at a startup. What excites you about this environment?
Oh, I think in a startup, it's so exciting. I think I've told Andre this before. I wish I had jumped much earlier in my career. I should have. I just love the pace of a startup. The challenge of a startup. You're usually asked to do multiple things, and you can't quite figure out how to get them all done. But I think it's that kind of excitement. It just makes coming to work every day a lot more enjoyable. So I love the startup environment. I love being asked to do things that nobody thinks you can do. And there's always a way to figure it out. It's just like one step at a time, and you always end up getting there. So it's a great environment. I think it's unconstrained. Again, for young females, the opportunity is boundless because you don't quite have all that infrastructure and constraints that you can see in a large company. So it's a great environment.
Right. So on the one hand, you might say a large company has lots of tools and things at its disposal. Those are also constraints as well.
Yeah, they're constraints. And again, there is sometimes a way that they're used to doing things. In a startup, you can always change the way things are being done. There's always room for improvement. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure. Thank you, Thomas.